All right, so we are going to work on finding limits algebraically now. In the last two classes, we've talked about how to find them graphically, where you can look at the graph and look at a particular x value where we're evaluating that limit and say, okay, from the left and from the right, is that graph approaching the same y value, even if it doesn't exist at that particular y value? And if so, then that is the limit of the function. So what we're going to do today is figure out how to do this algebraically if you don't have a graph. And the first approach we're going to take is using direct substitution, because in many situations, that's all you need to find the limit, and then you can confirm it by looking at a graph. So in direct substitution, we're going to take the value where we're evaluating the limit. So in this first example, x approaches 4. So we're going to use that value of 4 and do direct substitution. So I'm going to plug in for every x, I'm going to plug in 4. All right, so 4 squared minus 6 times 4 plus 3. Well, 4 squared is 16. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. And then we add 3. So that's negative 8 plus 3, negative 5. Okay, perfect. If we get a number there, then we can say that that is the value of the limit. I can directly substitute this in and say, all right, the limit as x approaches 4 of this particular quadratic function is negative 5. Let's take a look at the graph and see, because if that's true, then when we graph this parabola, as x approaches 4, we should see the y value approaching 5. So here's a look at that graph. We've got our quadratic. And as x approaches 4 from the left and from the right, so from the left we can see it's approaching a y value of negative 5, and from the right, same thing, approaching a y value of negative 5. And in fact, the function is defined there. Okay, so let's get back to the notes. There we go. Let's look at example 2. This one is a little bit different. It is a rational function, so we've got 4x cubed plus 1 over x minus 5. This time we're evaluating the limit at negative 2. So we're going to go ahead and substitute in negative 2 anywhere there's an x. And be careful, make sure you substitute in with parentheses, especially if you're typing things into your calculator. Okay, so here we go. On the bottom, negative 2 minus 5, that's negative 7. And then let's start with the negative 2 cubed in the numerator. That's going to be negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. That's negative 8. Times 4 is negative 32. Don't distribute that 4 in. We do the power first, then we multiply. And then plus 1. I'm going to clean this up. I got negative 31 over negative 7, which is 31 over 7. Okay, so that looks a little bit funky, but that is a number. So 31 divided by 7 is a number that's a little bit bigger than 4, right? Because 28 divided by 7 is 4, so it's 4.4 or 4.5. If we look at our graph, let's check out this function now. And we're supposed to evaluate this at x approaching negative 2. So here we are approaching negative 2, and from the left, here we go, getting close to 4.3 or 4. And then here, same thing, as we get closer to negative 2, 4.4 something. So 31 over 7 is that decimal, and we can see that that is the limit. So direct substitution works great when we're not evaluating at a discontinuity. So I'm going to pause, or I would recommend you pause here and try the next 3, and then come on back and see if you got the same answers as I did. Okay, so hopefully you tried those on your own, and if you did, you just substituted in the numbers that we were given. So in this case, we're plugging 4 in, and then just doing your math. So you can use your calculator, whatever you need to do. So we have 64 minus 48 minus 20 plus 7. So we square the 4 first. On that second term, that's 16 times negative 3, negative 48. Just be careful about that. And then when we put these all together, we just get 3. So we can say that the limit as x approaches 4 of this function is 3. On the second one, when we substitute in, we get 2 times 3 cubed minus 6. over 3 minus 3 squared. So again, on the denominator, 3 minus 3 squared, well, that's 3 minus 9. And then on the top, don't forget, cube the 3 first, so that's 27. And then 2 times 27 is 54 minus 6. And that gives us 48 over negative 6, which is negative 8. Okay, last one. Here we're plugging in negative 2 to this last function. So negative 2 squared minus 4 over negative 2 plus 2. Well, already I see a problem because negative 2 plus 2 is 0. And we've learned that dividing by 0 is not something we can do. Let's check out what's going on with the numerator too. So I've got, this becomes 4 minus 4. Again, I get 0 over 0. And that tells me we're not sure what the limit is here. When this situation arises where you end up with 0 over 0, it's called the indeterminate form. And that just simply means that the number that we're plugging in, we can't substitute it in directly and figure out what's going on there. We have to do a little more digging. And one of the best things to do in order to figure that out, when our direct substitution gets us this indeterminate form or dividing by 0, we're going to use factoring whenever possible to simplify the expression. Because as you look back, we could have seen on number 3 right away that substituting negative 2 in was going to make us divide by 0, and we know that means a function's undefined. So let's talk about some of this factoring. We've got an example here for a limit of a function as x approaches negative 4. And it's a rational function, and when I look at the numerator, I see that we can factor that. So I'm going to go ahead and factor that right now, and I'm going to say, well, that is x minus 5 times x plus 4 over x plus 4. Awesome. So when we go to do direct substitution, if I had tried to plug negative 4 in here, I would get 0 on the bottom, and we would be dividing by 0, which we can't do. However, when I go to factor, you notice that the x plus 4 and the x plus 4 cancel out. And so that means we have a hole in this rational function, and that hole is at x equals negative 4, which is why we can't plug in and direct substitute, because it's undefined there. So once you factor it and cancel it, really we're just looking at what is the limit now of this simplified function. Limit of the function as x approaches negative 4. And now the function is just the x minus 5. Right there, x minus 5. Because the x plus 4 canceled out. So now I can do direct substitution. And I can say, all right, well, if I just plug in negative 4 for that x, I get negative 4 minus 5, which is negative 9. And that's what we can say the limit is. So even though there's a hole in this graph, which we found by factoring and simplifying, if we were to graph it, we'd see that on either side of that hole, the y value is approaching negative 9, even though it doesn't equal it. Okay, so let's take a look at this last one. Limit as x approaches negative 1. Well, I'm not really sure if the function is going to be defined there. We could start by factoring the denominator and see what happens. So when I factor the denominator, we're looking for things that multiply to 2 and add to 3. X plus 2, x plus 1. And then in the numerator, yeah, I can also factor that out. I've got a 2 that I can take out, my GCF, and then x plus 2. All right, so when I look, if I go to substitute and just do direct substitution right now, when I plug that in, for that second factor, that negative 1 plus 1 becomes 0. If I take that 0 and multiply it times whatever this was, that's still 0, and we'd be dividing by 0. So the function's not defined there, so we can't really plug it in and figure that out. But let's take a look at what's going on. I see some factors that cancel, and I see that means this graph has a hole at x equals negative 2. Now, that's not where we're evaluating the limit, so that really doesn't matter. Let's figure out what's going on once we simplify this function. So now the new function is 2 over x plus 1. All right, so if I go to find the limit and I try and do direct substitution in there, I'm going to go ahead and get 2 over 0. That is another problem. It's undefined. But when I look at this function, if you remember from our rational functions, any factors that are left over in the denominator create a vertical asymptote. So this graph has a vertical asymptote at x equals -1. And that's why it's undefined here. So if you're picturing it, the graph might look like something like this, where we have like a -1, and we've got another asymptote, and we just have some sort of graph that goes like this. Now, when you look at -1, we have this graph as we approach from the right going up to infinity forever. As we approach from the left, it's going down to infinity forever. Anytime we have, we're evaluating a limit at a vertical asymptote, we're going to either be approaching positive infinity or negative infinity, which means that the limit does not exist. So when we have this happen, we would say that this limit does not exist because it's being evaluated at a vertical asymptote. Okay, so let's kind of clarify that and then have you guys work on your next assignments. If the limit's being evaluated at a hole, which is also known as a removable discontinuity, then what we need to do is factor the expression, simplify, and then substitute into the simplified expression. Okay. If the limit is being evaluated where there's a vertical asymptote, which is called a non-removable discontinuity, then the limit does not exist. Okay, so have these notes with you. Keep them handy for the quizzes and the Delta Math classwork.